What if the rage you are feeling has very little to do with the affair? I want you to sit with that for a second, to breathe in what you're feeling around that, to feel all of that resistance that comes up in your mind. Of course, it's about the affair, Laura. Why else would I be mad? If he hadn't have done this, my life would be going along just fine. I would have nothing to be angry about. Just sit with all of those thoughts, sit with all of those feelings, and allow yourself to think, what if my anger, what if my rage has nothing to do with the affair? One of my favorite quotes from the Course in Miracles is, I am never upset for the reason I think. I'm never upset for the reason I think. And I think one of the reasons that it is a favorite quote of mine is because it is so disruptive and it invites us to go deeper. And that's what this show is about. I am inviting you to go deeper, to see what is underneath your rage, to see what else might be a part of your anger, not to let your cheating partner off the hook, not to say what he did was okay, because that's not what it's about, but in service of having you really regain control, to find that deep sense of freedom and sovereignty where you know you are in charge of you. This hour, this next hour that we've got together, 50 minutes, is a sacred invitation for you to feel, the resistance that comes up, for you to feel a little bit of that anger and that rage, but also for you to feel the release and the disillusion. And I mean like disillusion as in like dissolving of that anger, of that rage, so you can reclaim the power that is in you. When we feel this kind of anger or rage, it's really an invitation to use it to reclaim ourselves. And what I mean by that is, because I know this is a lot of kind of esoteric stuff, I'm not talking about only our personal rage. I'm talking about the full unspoken rage of women throughout history. This hour, it is my intention that this hour is the beginning of remembering your truth and honoring your fire within. So start by taking a breath, by landing inside your belly. Feel your belly, your bones, the space beneath your ribs. And go back to that quote from A Course in Miracles. I am never upset for the reason that I think. I'm going to tell you a story. Not only am I going to tell you a story about what's been happening to me the last couple of weeks, but I'm also going to interweave in that story the wisdom that I am getting from my guides, the librarians. For those of you who don't know, the librarians are a collection, a collective of guides that I have channeled my whole life. And what they do is they store the wisdom of the collective. You might hear about like the Akashic records, and those are the records of the individuals. The librarians are not about the records of the individuals. They are the keepers of the wisdom of the lessons that humanity as a whole experiences. Lessons like compassion, forgiveness, self-trust, all of those kinds of lessons. And what they tell me, and I really believe to be true, is on a collective level, as we evolve and learn these lessons, we no longer have to learn these lessons again. Those painful things kind of start dissolving out of the collective, so we ascend and evolve higher and higher. And here's what I mean by that. Think about Earth many years ago, when it was kind of a war mentality, where it was tribes take over other tribes. And it was this conquest and war mentality that we really conquest and we take over. It's kind of kill or be killed. We have learned as a collective that living like that with this tribal war mentality of kill or be killed and conquest and take over, that's not beneficial for any of us. We are better off living in some sort of collaborative society. So that's like a lesson that is dying off in collective consciousness. We are no longer experiencing that lesson. Some other lessons that we have moved through is like the lesson that we have to be punished, that we have to suffer in order to be purified. You know, it used to really be whether it was self-flagellation or this sense of punishment that we have to suffer to purify, and that suffering is the only way to purify, and that suffering is good. And as a collective, we are slowly moving beyond that. We have kind of moved beyond that in the collective. We're realizing that there's other ways to be accountable. There's other things that we can do rather than create more suffering in us to get to that next level, because in fact, creating more suffering creates more suffering. It's the whole eye for an eye. It leaves the whole world blind. So these are just some examples of the collective lessons that we have mostly moved through. And that's the wisdom that I'm going to bring into our discussion today. Okay, so what happened to me is we got home from an amazing week of reconnection and channeling and joy on the beach in La Jolla, California. It was lovely. And when we came home, I was taking a shower the very first day. And my mom, who was over visiting the animals, came bursting into the room. And she's like, stop, stop, turn the shower off. Water is coming up through the toilet. And it was like, oh my God, you're kidding me. So I turn it off. My husband's there. He's cleaning it up. We call the plumber. Long story short, there are roots in our pipes. And I mean roots, ancestral roots, completely blocking our pipes. And then as they sent the camera through, there was also a drain in the basement that was completely blocked. So we had to really uproot from the center, the heart of our home. We had to have the basement jackhammered out. We had to have all these things moved. They poured in the cement. They put in new pipes. They fixed it. And we were like, wow, there is some spiritual wisdom in that. You know, these ancestral roots for things that haven't been cleaned out. The infidelity was 8 years ago. We've done a lot of work, but we're kind of like, I guess there's still some ancestral roots here. I guess there's still some things that we need to process. And we kind of went along our merry way a little bit. Now, obviously, there was some damage because sewage went throughout our whole house and it was kind of a mess. And insurance sent in a remediation company. And we talked about remediation and what it's going to take. And we're like, yes. And, you know, let's do this kind of to the minimum extent possible. This is where the rage comes in. They took everything. They didn't remediate. They destroyed our home. They didn't just cut out what was damaged. They cut out everything. Both in, we have a walkout basement. That's where my office is. They took all of that. They took our entire bathroom. They took hardwood floors. Like they took parts of our home that were never impacted by the sewage. And it's one of those things we didn't see for a couple of reasons. First of all, they had these huge tents over everything. And it's not really my job to go supervise them every second of every day when we talk about remediating to the smallest degree possible, and that you're supposed to be a professional. And then second, when I came in to approve the work, they had all the furniture packed on one side. So I'm looking at the area where the flood was, and I'm like, yep, great, thanks. Inside, I'm thinking it took quite a lot. It wasn't until 2 days later, when we go to move back all the furniture, we're like, the walls are gone back here. The baseboards are gone back here. The carpet, the flooring, everything is gone over here. What did they do? And then this rage, this horror hits. And I can't run all that rage and horror through my body. It hit me so hard. And not that I'm really leaving death threats, but it's like you want to call and leave death threats for everybody because you can't believe how deep this hits and you can't believe how violated you feel. And the response that kicked up, I don't want to say it was out of proportion to what happened because what happened was pretty egregious. But it was such a full rage response. I mean, I still, even just talking about it now, and granted, it's only been a week, I still feel shaky with rage. And when I started meditating on it, because it was like I couldn't calm myself. I couldn't re-regulate my nervous system. I couldn't get a handle on what had just happened, that somebody came in and made something worse. They intentionally came in and they made something 10 times worse than it needed to be. And my mind blew. And as I'm meditating on this, as I'm begging the librarians for wisdom because I feel so awful, I feel so dysregulated, the wisdom that came in is, yes, this is some of your rage, but this is ancestral. We gave you this clue with the ancestral roots. This is the roots of full female rage and anger. And it felt so right, not only in that moment, but several of the women that I'm working with right now are dealing with intense rage. And in my monthly membership group, one of the benefits is people get individual readings from the librarians. And that kept coming up in their individual readings, that this rage is not yours. There is a part of it that is yours, but this is ancestral. This is in your epigenetics. This is in your cells. This is the history of women being subjugated, of women being property, of women being abused, of women having no voice, of women having no power, of women not being potent. And if you haven't already, go back and listen to my show on Are You Pissed? Passive or Potent? Because, this ties together so, so perfectly. So I've been doing a lot of work around that. Like, female rage gets silenced. If you think about marriage, we have historically become property of our husband. In medicine, we are not researched. Women's issues are all in her head. This past spring, I went to Chalene Johnson's Camp Be More, which was a ton of fun. And there were a lot of people talking about menopause. Dr. Mary Claire Haver, Susan Bratton, who was just on my show last week. A lot of different women in this women's space were sharing about how women are not researched. The dollar amount of research that is spent on women's conditions is pathetic. We are not listened to. Dr. Mary Claire Haver was talking about WW. When she was in residency, when a woman came in with complaints, she was referred to as a WW, WW, which is a whiny woman. Women's pain is not taken seriously. She's a whiny woman. Go home. You'll be fine. Instead of figuring out, wow, there's some things that we don't know about hormones and women's bodies and all of these things and pain level. She's just a whiny woman. And as she started expanding and moving into women's health, because now she's a women's health expert, you know what? I should see if she should be on the show. We need this. There's a term like WW, a whiny woman, everywhere. It's taught in medical school that women's pain is all in their head, that women are super sensitive and to ignore it. Similarly, in most churches, in so many churches, women can't hold power. The women, the line of Mary Magdalene, she's a whore. She is not a sacred being who is a partner to Jesus. No, 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 she's a whore. Women's wisdom has been systematically and systemically cut out. We know that it happens in the boardroom. We know that women are paid less. We know that we are not promoted. We know that there is a bias against women. In all areas throughout time, this is part of our epigenetics. This is generational trauma, and it gets activated in us when something happens, whether it's infidelity, whether it's being taken advantage of at a car dealership, whether it's somebody coming in and destroying your home. It doesn't matter what it is. When that violation occurs, we feel it in every cell of our body because that's the generational trauma that's there. That's the epigenetics that's there. And if you don't understand epigenetics, I've got a show on it, and I will put the link of that show in here. But it is vibrating in every cell of your body, which is why that quote from the Course in Miracles is so powerful. I'm not angry at what I think I'm angry at. Yes, you're angry about the infidelity. Yes, you're angry about the breach of trust. Yes, you're angry that you have to now put your life back together. Yes, you're angry at all the things that you were rightfully angry at. And let's not ignore that every single cell of your body is also screaming in rage that has been suppressed for eons. I want you to think about your family lineage, your mothers, your grandmothers, your aunts, your older sisters. I want you to think about your personal lineage. Where did the women in your family suffer? Where were they shut down? Where did they not have access to things that they wanted or needed? I mean, just small things. I know in birth, my mom, I was born in 1969, her hands were tied down during labor and delivery because they said women will try to grab at themselves. So they tied her to the freaking table to have a baby. My grandmother, her mother, was put into twilight sleep. These are such violations. My mom couldn't have a bank account. She couldn't get a mortgage in her own name. After I was born, she couldn't get birth control without her husband's permission. My grandmother couldn't do any of that either. She worked, but part-time, and as a secretary in a school, my grandmother, because that was all, not all, but she had limited availability. She should have gotten a divorce. She really should have gotten a divorce. But there was such a stigma around that. There was such a societal stigma around that that she didn't. I want you to think back in your family, who else was cheated on? Who else maybe had an abusive relationship, whether it was emotional or physical? Who else stayed when they shouldn't have stayed? Who else never got the career or the monetary power or the respect that they deserved as a sacred sovereign being? That is in your lineage. So, of course, you are angry. Of course, you are scorched earth angry over this. Another quote that I absolutely adore is the female body carries the stories of every woman who could not speak. That's Clarissa Pinkola Estes, the Women Who Run with the Wolves author. The female body carries the stories of every woman who could not speak. Who are the women in your lineage that could not speak? You might or might not know their name. You might or might not know their story, but you know that internal scream. You know that internal holding it in, being the bigger person, not rocking the boat because I don't want to be punished, not rocking the boat because I can't own property, I can't, whatever it is. You know, think back, there's so many stories, whether it's the Jane Eyre or, Little Women or Bridgerton or any of those things, the women can't do. Their survival was dependent on their ability to attract and retain and keep men. Marriage was the way to elevate women and to keep them safe. You are born from generations of women who swallowed their pain so you could survive, so they could survive. That's no way to live anymore. And I know it's scary. And it's the whole persecution of healers, too. Powerful women, you're just accused of being a witch and you're burned at the stake. This is your survival instinct kicking up. And it's like of we're on the precipice of a new paradigm where we are allowed to speak, where we will be believed. And I think that's why so much is coming up right now. There's all these memes like around Epstein and all of this, that what if we just believed the women? And it's like we're right there. In so many ways, we are finally believed. In so many ways, we finally have power. In so many ways, we're getting our agency, and then it's pulled back and it's pulled back and it's pulled back. And I don't want to say it's more painful because we have that destination in sight, but it's so disheartening to be that close and that far away all at the same time. It is so disheartening to be that close and that far away all at the same time. And that's, I think, why so much of this rage is intensifying right now, because we see the finish line. It's the false summit. How many false summits are there? And we're just like, I cannot deal with another false summit. I don't want to deal with another false summit. We have reached a threshold. Silence has built this dam. The dam is cracking. And we want to destroy that dam and just let it all rush through. And then when it doesn't happen, we feel rage. And what if your rage was not here to destroy? What if your rage here was to reveal that ultimate truth, to reveal where systems have failed you, where they have failed generations of women, where you have failed yourself, where you have kept yourself small, where you have not spoken up, where you have not fought, where you have not rocked the boat. And I don't mean that in terms of now I'm going to go beat up on myself. You did it to survive. I do it to survive. We all do it to survive. But how many more times are we going to do it to survive? And when are we going to finally stand up and be like, enough, enough? And we're just so right there. Our voices have been erased, and now we are being witnessed. And yes, there are those out there who are judging us, who are shutting us down, but we can witness each other. We can witness each other because that's where the tide turns. It's no longer about containing the fire and being sweet and being a good girl. You are here to shape this fire, to push it in the right direction, to use it, to lead with it, to lean into it. Rage brings clarity. I wish I would have had this clarity sooner, but you know what? I didn't. But it's here now. Rage brings boundaries. I cannot believe I have systematically allowed myself to be abused, subjugated, dismissed, but no more. Rage brings truth telling. I have been quiet for too long. I have bit my tongue and no more. And if it makes you uncomfortable, it's not my concern. If it makes you sad, that's not my concern. If it makes you leave me, that's not my concern. It's good riddance in a healthy way. I can still mourn it, but I need to be fully who I am. Your anger is not too much. It's a map. It is a map to the past, and it is a map to the future. And it's how do I take everywhere that I have been, everywhere that others in my lineage, everywhere that other women throughout history who have been burned at the stake, who have had to play nice, who have been in marriages they don't want to be in, who have had children that they don't want to have, who have not been able to have a voice, who weren't believed. How do I take all of that and create a map for the future that creates balance and justice for all of those women? And it's not about abusing others as we create that injustice, because that's not what it's about. It's not about now we're going to abuse the abusers. It's how do we stand into that full power? How do we own that truth? Create those boundaries, have that clarity, and sit with those uncomfortable feelings that I might be creating discomfort in others, and it's okay because it's theirs to deal with. It's not mine. One of the things that I've been working on, one of the things that I worked on when I was in La Jolla was the concept of alchemy. I was meditating, I was spending a lot of time with my guides, the librarians, and I was meditating on betrayal. When you're betrayed, an injury is created, and hurt people hurt people. And I was with my husband, the man who betrayed me, and we were having this conversation. And I said, I see that your pain, your childhood wounding is what created the betrayal. Your pain caused you to take an action that hurt me. And I said, it's so weird because he lived with his mom and was severely abused for 15 years. And he cheated for 15 years in our marriage. And I was like, this symmetry, this symmetry is not coincidental. You were abused for 15 years, and then you abused for 15 years. And in a cheeky way, I'm like, cycle closed, karma complete, we're done. Boop, boop, boop. And the next step is I don't now go out and abuse for 15 years. I now do not go out and dump my pain on somebody else. So, how do you create balance? Like it's so easy to see victim for 15 years, victimizer for 15 years. Scales balanced. What about me? What about you? What about you? You're in a damaged place. I'm in a damaged place. I was damaged emotionally from the affair. I was damaged financially from the affair. I was damaged when the stupid house people came in and took way more of my house than they ever needed to. I have been damaged. What do I do with that? How do I make myself whole? Not by going out and abusing. It's an option, but it's going to perpetuate the pain. It's going to create more wounded people who need to go out and wound. The only option is to alchemize. What do I alchemize? How do I take this pain, this damage, and alchemize? How do I alchemize it into something better? What do I do with this? Because it's not about stuffing it down. It's not about silencing. It's not about being the good girl. It's not about playing nice. What do I do? How do I alchemize it? And it was such an interesting lesson because as I sat there that week, really working with the concept of alchemizing trauma, alchemizing pain, alchemizing to then come home and have a situation right there in the physical world where I'm damaged and now I have to alchemize things. Right? Because this is about more than infidelity. This is about all kinds of betrayal. This is about the triggers, the agitation, the body, the somatic feelings. Like I couldn't eat for several days. I was nauseous. I would get up and be really sick to my stomach. How do I alchemize all of this to create something better? And again, it's about doing my own work, working my own process, feeling my own feelings. But then most importantly, I think holding that intention for what gets created on the other side. Because until I have that vision, I'm still mired in the pain. And then how to keep feeling that pain. So it's not stuffed down. So my lineage is pure. So the ripples in the pond that I put out there are pure. And this is one of the things that I came up with. And this is what I want to share. As these old lessons fade, as the old lesson fades of I have no power, I have no voice, I have to play nice and be a good girl, here's what comes up. What comes up is the idea of sovereignty, of interdependence, that this suffering is optional. I don't have to suffer when I'm hurt. I can respond differently. That is that first step. I'm sovereign. We're interdependent. If my healing heals the whole. So number one, suffering becomes optional. And I can learn how to respond differently. And I tell you, that can take a lot of thought. If you want to unpack it, let me know. Number two, those who carry the new pattern teach or ripple it out to other people. This is why we like thought leaders. This is why people coach with me individually. I carry that new pattern. I teach it to others and it ripples outwards. I don't buy into the paradigm that leaving your partner is the only way to go. I don't buy into the paradigm that you need to revenge cheat. I don't buy into the paradigm that creating more pain is going to be helpful. I buy into the paradigm that we can alchemize this and we can learn a lot about ourselves and we can create a better world because of it, that we can create better relationships because of it. I carry this magical pattern of alchemy. I teach it to those that I work with. I imbue it, they imbue it, we ripple it out. We teach our children, our grandchildren, our friends, our families. We teach people in our own lineage. As we do this work, the third step is institutions, systems, and structures then begin to shift. As we are all showing up differently in our lives, in our marriages, in our families, when we go out into the world, we also impact those systems and structures. I say no more in my family, and then it helps me say no more in the workplace, which also helps me say no more in a political arena, a religious arena, things like that. This change ripples out, and then I'm carrying this frequency and I'm passing it to others. It's that lighting of the candle. As we change individually, we change institutions collectively. And then finally, like the librarians say, these old experiences become less and less available in like this collective menu. We're less and less likely to experience them. We're less and less likely to feel pain around them. We are less and less likely to have this happen. Breathe. Put your hand on your chest and breathe. Feel your heart. It might be scared. Oh my God, I have to be doing this work. It might be thrilling. Oh my goodness, I get to do this work. It might be a little bit of both. Either drop your hand down to your belly or put your other hand on your belly and breathe into that. What if the fear, the rage you're feeling is not just yours? What if it's collective? What if it's transmutable? And what if you are being the one called to transmute it? What if you are the one being called to transmute it? Wow, right? This has brought so much up in me, both power and pain. And I am choosing to sit with it, and I'm choosing to metabolize it and alchemize it. And it's my deepest wish that you choose the same for you, so that together we can find a different path. We can create a different experience for ourselves, for the world, for all of us to rise. In service of that, I have created a sacred rage release workshop. It's on Zoom. It's on August 16th, because you don't have to carry all this alone. You don't have to figure this out alone. You just have to feel it, allow it to be witnessed, join with others. We're going to do this together, because together we are truly unstoppable. Let me know if you would like information on the Sacred Rage Workshop. It's available on Eventbrite. I am sending out links in my weekly newsletter. If you are not on my weekly newsletter, oh my gosh, you should be, because I give you great resources and tools and meditations and videos and somatic practices. Like, I give you all the things. To join my newsletter, you can just go to betrayalrecoveryguide.com. Not only will you be able to download the free Betrayal Recovery Guide, which has meditations, which has somatic practices, which has all the things, but it'll also put you on my newsletter. If you're like, I just want to make sure I am registered for the rage processing workshop, reach out, email me, Laura at loracheadle.com. Hit me up on social media. There are 100 ways to find me, and I'll send you the link. It's on Eventbrite. It's only $47 for 2 hours on Saturday, August 16th. You can also search for it on Eventbrite. Many ways to get to it, but I don't want you to miss it. So I look forward to being in the room with you, in the Zoom room with you on August 16th for a sacred rage release. In the meantime, choose to honor the rage that's in your bloodline. Choose to trust the sacredness of that rage and that wisdom. And together, let's witness and hold each other. Have a really good, deep processing week. And as usual, always remember to flaunt exactly who you are, because who you are is always more than enough.